recognizing a communist, physical appearance counts for nothing. If he openly declares himself to be a communist, we take his word for it. If a person consistently reads and advocates the views expressed in a communist publication, he may be a communist. If a person supports organizations which reflect communist teachings, or organizations labeled communist by the Department of Justice, she may be a communist. If a person defends the activities of communist nations while consistently attacking the domestic and foreign policy of the United States, she may be a communist. If a person does all these things over a period of time, he must be a communist. But there are other communists who don't show their real faces, who work more silently.
And welcome to a very special Killer Kitchen. Now this evening, I thought we'd take things in a slightly different direction. As we all know, we all dabble in the horror, and that's what you get here in the Killer Kitchen, for the most part. But I thought we'd examine real fear. Imagine a world where freedom is stamped upon. Choice is only an illusion. In a time where you're led to believe one thing while simultaneously being told to ignore your senses on all that you know, right, wrong, everything is fed to you on a factory-style machine. Our opening picture was our warning. The only thing missing, I guess, is the crossbones. And so, to play into this evening's episode, we are going to make, instead of little tiny gingerbread cookies, because I just have a taste of gingerbread, we are going to mold our gingerbread into this pan and make a hollow skull gingerbread cookie. And I will show you how to do that. Now, as you can tell, we've pre-buttered it. It's good to go. This guy's nice and soft. He's room temperature, been out about 45 minutes. So this is perfect. And we've got our egg. One solitary egg. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take... This was actually a gift. One of our neighbors here, good friend of mine, passed this along to us. It's a gingerbread cookie mix because I said I had a taste for cookies and I don't want to go to the damn store. And although we have the stuff to do it from scratch, I was just too fucking lazy to do that too. So I decided this is perfect. And you know, honestly, one thing in America, our biggest holiday that we've ever celebrated has always been Christmas. From the very foundation of our country in 1776, but even prior to that, all the way back dating to when the Pilgrims first arrived on Plymouth Rock, we have always celebrated Christmas. And nothing says Christmas like gingerbread cookies. And yes, I know December was a long time ago. Forget it, leave it alone. Well, to all of you out there with that comment, I don't care what time of year it is, I got a taste for gingerbread, and I'm gonna fucking make me some fucking gingerbread cookies. Or one giant gingerbread cookie. And that is freedom. That is choice. To say, I don't care, I'm gonna do it because I want to, and I'm not hurting anyone, so god damn it, I have the right. So the next time somebody comes along trying to sell you a lie, coming along with that perfect line, and they want you to believe their bullshit, they want you to buy their sack of crap, that they're telling you is gold, but you can smell the feces a mile away? Well, just remember this. If it smells like shit, instead of expecting it, maybe it's time to tell him to take his bag of shit and walk. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this guy right here, and we're going to dump it into our hole. Just like this. Now, what I like to do personally is I like to add just a tad, a little bit of cinnamon sugar. Just so happens I've got my Cinnamon Toast Crunch cinnamon sugar. So we're going to take some of this and just lightly sprinkle the top. That's it. You don't want to much because you don't want to fuck up your dough. It's just enough to add a little bit of extra kick and a little bit of flavor to that gingerbread. Now we're going to take the whole stick, put it in there. Done deal. 1 egg. And I'm going to mix this up. But now, because I want to make sure that this is going to work, because we actually altered our recipe just enough so that we could do this the way we're doing it instead of the cookie form that you would do on a flat pan. Now again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix this up. Those of you at home who are using an actual gas oven, or even if it's electric, I hate this term preheat. There is no preheating. There's two fucking things to an oven. It's cold, it's hot. There's no fucking in between unless it's warming up or just staying low warm. But there is no preheating. So, heat your oven up at 375. And while we heat this up at 375, I'd like you guys to take a look at this cartoon right now.
America is many things to many people. To a 17-year-old kid, it's the malt shop on the corner. To Grandpa, it's the front porch in the cool of the evening. To Mother and her family, it's church on Sunday morning. And to Dad, it's his favorite relaxation. It's the Cracker Barrel philosophers in Crabtree Corners. And it's the tycoons in Wall Street. It's all races, creeds, and religions. It's freedom to work at the job you like. Freedom of speech and to peaceably assemble. Freedom to own property. Security from unlawful search or seizure.
Where's your warrant, Flatfoot?
The right to a speedy and public trial. Protection against cruel punishments and excessive fines. The right to vote. And to worship God in your own way. It is these freedoms that have made America strong.
Okay, so we got our freedom. But management's lousing up everything.
Labor is at fault. It's ruining the country. My constituents, as your elected representative, I can assure you Labor's right. Management's right. I'm strictly neutral.
Labor, management, politicians, fooey. They can't tell corn from oats.
Work!
Hurry, step right up, folks. Here's the answer to your problems. Dr. Utopia's sensational new discovery, ISM. ISM will cure any ailment of the body politic. It's terrific. It's tremendous. Once you swallow the contents of this bottle, you'll have the bountiful benefit of higher wages, shorter hours, and security. Enormous profits, no strikes. Remember, you're the big boss. Government control, no worry about votes. Name your own salary. bigger crops, lower costs. Why, ISM even makes the weather perfect every day. And now then, because we are introducing this amazing item for the first time in this country, it isn't going to cost you 1 cent. All you have to do is sign this little scrap of paper, and you get your bottle absolutely free.
I hereby turn over to ISM Incorporated everything I have, including my freedom and the freedom of my children and my children's children, in return for which said ISM promises to take care of me forever.
Get out of the way!
Pardon me.
And who are you, my good man?
I'm John Q. Public.
Ah, my fine friend, you're just in time to share this generous and gigantic offer. Sign right here.
Mind if I read it first?
Hurry up,
Keep your shirts on, boys. Including my freedom. Freedom? What? Sign away my freedom? Why, this is ridiculous.
Don't be corny, brother.
Sure, our system of free enterprise isn't perfect. But before we throw it away for some imported double talk, let's turn the clock back a few years to see what it's done for us. For example, back in the 1890s, Joe Dokes was just a guy who liked to tinker around his barn. Some people thought Joe was lazy. Some even thought he was nuts. But one day, he had an idea. And because he was free to dream his dream and tinker, Joe had a chance to make something of himself and his idea. So, of course, some people didn't think so much of Joe's idea. But that didn't stop him. So Joe got some money from young Aunt Minnie and Uncle Angus and Grandpappy and Mr. Titus. When Joe's friends and relatives used their savings to help him buy tools and property, they were capitalists. Don't blush, folks. It's nothing to be ashamed of. Now, naturally, Joe needed some help. So he hired Willie Lumpkin, who was out of work anyway, and before long, Willie had the know-how and became skilled labor. Because capital, management, and labor worked together, Joe's idea grew. It grew and did things even he never dreamed of. Today, the automobile industry provides millions of jobs that never existed before. And remember, this is a story of only one industry. There are thousands more scattered all over the United States whose history of development is pretty much the same. We've built a country under the American system that sends more young people to high school and college than all the rest of the world combined. Why, even in the Depression, our wages bought more food, clothing, travel, and entertainment than the wages of any other people in the world. Our country has a national income equal to the total national incomes of any other 6 nations in the world. With only 7% of the Earth's people, we drive 70% of the world's automobiles. That's just a sample of the things the capitalistic system has given us in only 160 years. Before signing up, you boys ought to try a little taste of Dr. Ism's formula to see what you'd get in exchange for your freedom. Go ahead, try it.
You can't do this to me! I'll strike!
The state forbids strikes.
Wait till the union hears about this!
Ah, yes, the Union. Welcome to our ranks, number 1313.
I'll take this case to the Supreme Court.
The state is the Supreme Court. Our decision is as follows. No more private property. No more you.
The farm folk will put a stop to this.
Farmers don't vote anymore.
What'll I do for seed next year?
You won't have to worry about next year. The state will do your planning from now on.
We must fight to regain our freedom, or everything is lost. Everything!
Everything is fine. Everything is fine. Everything is fine. Everything is fine. Everything is fine.
When anybody preaches disunity, tries to pit one of us against the other through class warfare, race hatred, or religious intolerance, you know that person seeks to rob us of our freedom and destroy our very lives. And we know what to do about it.
And now, gentlemen, no violence, please. And don't throw those bottles. Don't throw those bottles. No! Oh, no! No! Hey! Hey! Hey!
Working together to produce an ever greater abundance of material and spiritual values for all. That is the secret of American prosperity.
And that, my friends, is a lesson that, although it may be too late for some, that's a lesson right there that should be mandatory in every classroom, in every school, every single day, to be followed right after the Pledge of Allegiance before you start your school day. Because the truth is, as important as reading, writing, history, and arithmetic are to a healthy, growing young mind, that cartoon right there is probably the most important message to give any child or any adult here in 2024. Whatever fucking year this might be, because honestly, as far as I'm concerned, it's 1984, and I do understand that Big Brother is watching. So with that in mind, I will try to keep this clean. In fact, we're going to rename this to our Gingerbread Big Brother. Now what I've done is, if you remember the opening, I greased this up good. I mean, I hit this thick with butter. Now I used real stick butter, not Pam cooking spray, and I didn't let the oil cool up, so I didn't do oil. I used a thick coat of a regular stick of butter. Now what we're going to do, and this is where it gets tricky. We're going to take some of this, a dab for now, and get it in here. Just like that. Once you get a feel for how much you've got, because I did not make enough to make a full skull, however, I do have enough here, I believe, to be able to get a nice, thin outline of our skull. And then remove carefully, we'll get a nice hollow shell, which could actually be used as a cookie topping, a cake topping, so you make a nice white cake. Now you got your gingerbread topping, and you got a double sweet treat. In fact, for those of you who are watching, I think this would be a fun opportunity for you guys at home to show your family something interesting, while at the same time giving them a good, clean message that will bring everybody together. You see, I've noticed that the one thing our youth is just not getting education on how to spot communism, socialism, and the propaganda coming from the war machine on the left. And unfortunately, for a lot of these kids today, their biggest influence are people like Taylor Swift and Simon Cowell, or this Ricky Gervais. But you know, these kids today, you notice, they don't really have a role model. And everything they do have, it's always the same thing. Capitalism bad. Socialism good. America bad. Socialist country, poor and having riots, but they're good. And somehow or other, and I haven't figured this part out, not only America bad, capitalism bad, communism, socialism, riots and crime good. You know, one thing I've noticed, they're learning this crap in our schools. Our schools should be nurturing a young mind, teaching a child how to protect themselves, to inhibit life, to one day not end up like Joe Biden, lying to the American people, selling out the American people while selling his campaign from his basement. And I've noticed a lot of kids get that firsthand. In fact, most of our justice warriors are still living in mommy's and daddy's basement while telling mommy and daddy that everything you stand for is bad, you better pay for me or you're bad. And you're bad anyway because you're whatever my teacher told me you are. So, with that in mind, I'm going to fit this in here, and we're going to mold this. Now, see here, you guys can get a good look. I'm going to put this all into here. This will be a fun cut. Now, I'm gonna smooth it in here, just like so. And this will be our base. Now you want to get it as evenly as in there as you can. You'll have to excuse my angles. Cam Pam is just not feeling herself today, so I decided to give Cam Pam the night off. Considering it's not Saturday and we only really do Killer Kitchen on Saturdays, I figured why should she have to suffer because I got a bright idea. But after watching the news, and I'll be honest, I've made the mistake. I started watching CNN, I started watching the MSNBC, and hell, I followed that up with Fox News. I'm gonna tell you guys, I'm not being paid for this. This is not a paid promotion. But if you guys really want to know what's happening in this country, don't watch American news broadcasts. Don't watch CNN, Fox, or local crap on whatever TV station you're watching. Look up foreign news. Get it with the subtitles. In fact, some countries do perform their news in English. Sky News Australia is one I recommend. And Rita Panahi, not only beautiful, but one of the most intelligent, if not the most intelligent female broadcast in all of history. She makes Barbara Walters look like Barbara Wah. So watch this, and we're going to get this guy in the oven. One last thing before we get to this. I was going to point it out earlier, and I guess for lack of a better phrase, I just fucking didn't think about it until right now. This is part of a 3-part series that delves into communism. The missing piece, you'll hear him bring it up. What's the difference between communism and socialism? We know, ironically, YouTube just won't let me have that. And when I tried to post it, the video was taken down and I got a copyright strike. So, if you want to know what's controlling our society and what's destroying our society, you might want to take a look at the socialists in control of our society.
You are looking at film clips from worldwide newsreels. The title reads, Communist Riots in Tokyo, Japan. A long way off, you think. This communist mob is in Venezuela, right in our own backyard, attacking an American citizen and his wife. A kangaroo court in Havana, condemning hundreds to the firing squad because they incurred the displeasure of Castro and his crowd. This is happening 90 miles from our mainland. Less than 10 minutes by jet bomber. Less than 5 minutes by rocket missile. And where do you think this is? It's communist-inspired student rioting in San Francisco, USA. Look at those faces. The face of communism in America. Is it not high time we ask ourselves? Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Herbert A. Philbrick.
What is communism? I've been on the inside of communism. I still have contacts. From this knowledge, I tell you as simply and seriously as I know how. Communism is a lying, dirty, shrewd, godless, murderous, determined, as J. Edgar Hoover says, a criminal conspiracy. I'm choosing these words deliberately. As I travel around, I still have people say, well, why are you so hard on communists? They're just another political party like any other, and a poor minority at that, and so misunderstood. Well, we don't want them misunderstood, and that's why we're making this film. And that's why I say they are lying, dirty, shrewd, godless, murderous, determined, and it is not an American political party like any other. It's an outlawed organization, taking its orders and instructions from another government to do everything possible to destroy our government. It's an international criminal conspiracy. In years to come, if democracy falls, historians are going to look back on this time in which we are now living, and are going to say, how could any free and intelligent people living in a country like America let a gang of vicious outsiders come in and take over? Well, of course, the only answer would be that most Americans didn't realize or couldn't believe until it was too late that communists are what they are. That's why I want to analyze those 3, 6, 9 words. And if you'll follow me, I'll guarantee that 10 minutes from now, a lot of you are going to have a new understanding of communism. Now, let's see if that isn't so. We start with lying. People wonder, how can a communist look you in the eye and tell one bare-faced lie after another with a straight face, the way Gromyko did with President Kennedy on Cuba? Well, the explanation is simple. Lying doesn't mean the same thing to a real communist that it means to you and me. For 9 years, I walked streets like this to meet with other party members down dark hallways, behind closed doors, constantly changing meeting places to avoid suspicion. In musty attics or moldy basement rooms like this. We were taught by our communist leaders and ordered to believe that truth is anything that will promote communism. Therefore, nothing is a lie if it helps the party. So the communists use the lie as a weapon, a shield, and a tool. When you keep that in mind, at last you begin to understand them. When a smiling Khrushchev says the Russians in Cuba are technicians and farm helpers, well, you can suspect there are soldiers too. And when he says only defensive weapons were sent, well, you can suspect there are also intercontinental missiles and bombers. And when he says now they removed them all, Well, what do you think? Since it is their sworn duty to tell us whatever will best serve their cause, we should always suspect they are lying. Lying is one of their best tools for playing dirty. Dirty, mean, despicable, ruthless. Slander, blackmail, corruption of character, to stock and trade. They recognize no such things as human dignity or any rights of the individual. Class hatred and open class warfare are their specialty. If they can get a few people killed, well, so much the better. As some were killed in this communist-incited race riot. At this, they are not only dirty, but they are oh so shrewd. Give them credit. They know Americans better than most Americans know communists. They are shrewd with words. How many Americans would volunteer for the Communist Army? Yet, many enlisted when it was called the Abraham Lincoln Brigade, and went off to fight and die with the Communists in the Spanish Civil War. When, in 1943, for tactical reasons, the Communist Party eliminated the Young Communist League, it instantly became the American Youth for Democracy. They don't say, give us the right to operate subversively in our midst. They say, defend the Bill of Rights. They don't call their campaign against our Internal Security Act by that name. They used the Citizens Committee for Constitutional Liberties and the American Committee for the Protection of Foreign Bond. There's the American League for Peace and Democracy, and so on. Well, that last mouthful combines a number of words our people like. Peace, democracy, even the American League. But this is only a drop in the bucket. The communists are past masters at getting other people to do their dirty work for them. They take over organization after organization in America in just 2 steps: infiltration and agitation. This is what they work at day and night. This is what accounts for much of their success. You want a shocker? Well, in that list up there, in place of those thinly veiled commie fronts, let's substitute some other names, respectable names, that have been infiltrated to a greater or lesser degree. I hope you are more than shocked. I hope you are aroused. Because we have it on no less authority than J. Edgar Hoover that communists and fellow travelers have penetrated every category up there, and more. Well, you think a few maybe, but it doesn't take many. It has been tragically proven time and again that one dedicated communist in a key spot, such as Alger Hiss in the State Department, or Harry Dexter White in the Treasury Department, or in any position to influence command decisions, can wreck our hopes, slaughter our soldiers, and weaken our nation. But we must hurry on. I've said these fellows are lying, dirty, shrewd, and I say they are godless. To me, this is perhaps the most frightening word of all, because it accounts for every other bad word that describes them. When the Reds tear down their churches or turn them into common warehouses, when they torture and kill their priests, ministers, and rabbis, we are horrified, yes. But why are we surprised? What do you expect of a people who say the church is our enemy and must be destroyed? No one can be a true communist and hold any religious convictions. I say to you, it is bad to be irreligious, but it is far worse to be anti-religious. It is reprehensible to be immoral, but it is horrifying to be unmoral. To them, any wrong they do is right. Well, these are some of the more frightening facts we must understand if we are going to understand communism, and we'd better understand it. My grandmother used to say, what you don't know won't hurt you. But today, what you don't know can kill you, and I mean that literally. The communists are murderers. Of course, they don't call it that. Whether they're casually shooting individuals who get in their way, or as in the Katyn Forest Massacre in 1940, maliciously executing 15,000 Polish officers and intellectuals. In the words of an official United States Congressional Committee, the committee unanimously agrees that its investigation proves conclusively and irrevocably the Soviets' NKVD, the People's Commissariat of Internal Affairs, committed this massacre, a calculated plot to eliminate all Polish leaders who subsequently would have opposed the Soviets' plan for communizing Poland. This was plotted shortly after the Soviets' treacherous invasion of Poland in the fall of 1939. We'll not prolong these gruesome scenes taken from this official hearing and report of the United States Congressional Committee, but while you're recoiling from this sight, save a little shudder for yourself. Why? Because this is part of what is planned for you. Yes, the communists have plans for you. As soon as they're in power, they will arrest many of you, seize your property. If you're important enough, they will shoot you, along with all community leaders. The rest of you will be regimented, and some of you forced into slave labor. This is the planned, plotted, tested program they are determined to execute in this country, as they already have in many others. Don't think for a minute their program is on a take-it-or-leave-it basis. When you see where the Reds have grabbed a new slice of territory here or a whole nation there, well, don't tranquilize yourself with the thought that this will satisfy them. Every move they make, every piece of ground they gobble up, every labor union, every government agency, every local organization they infiltrate in this country is just one more step towards their main goal, which is America and you. Occasionally they get their setbacks, but don't let a few defeats raise your hopes any. Even the setbacks are part of their overall strategy. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Cuba is a classic illustration. Remember this news photo? Castro and Khrushchev hugging each other? We thought it a little ridiculous at the time, rather disgusting, and let it go at that. The next thing we know, the Russians put missiles and bombers on the island. Then we suddenly come to life and say, wait a minute, back up there. So they take 1 step back. They make a show of removal. But see what they still gain in the maneuver? We think we won a victory. So we relax. And they end up with who knows how many missiles and bases and military personnel established 90 miles off our coast. Well, that's the story of our experience with the communists. When we get mad enough to call a halt to something, they back up and say, okay, don't get excited, let's coexist. So we relax again. We give them a chance to consolidate their gains, and then they come in with a new sneak punch. What it all boils down to is just what J. Edgar Hoover said. It's the greatest danger we face in the world today. Well, I promised you 10 minutes ago that by this time you would have a new understanding of communism. Too long we have been thinking of communists as misguided but human beings with humane feelings and responses. What we have just shown you exposes them for what they really are: lying, dirty, shrewd, godless, determined, and international criminal conspiracy. This is the true nature of the enemy. This is communism.
Welcome back. That, my friends, was Herbert Arthur Philbrick, an FBI informant who was paid to infiltrate the Democratic Communist Party of 1949. What he found out his 6 months undercover and more time spent later on between 1949 and 1960 1963, I believe, is some of the most devastating news ever brought forth. Ultimately, what he would find out and later testify in court would lead to the arrest of some of the most dangerous men that have ever lived. And had they been allowed to continue, had we not caught them, had he not been able to infiltrate what they were up to, America would have faced an even greater enemy than Adolf Hitler, and it would have come at the hands of people that have been brainwashed by a communist dictator who was telling them from another government across seas how to infiltrate and destroy us from within. Now let me ask you something. How many of you out there keep hearing on the college campuses, capitalism bad but communism good? How many of you keep hearing as they rip our country apart and do everything they can to defend the crimes of other countries, the crimes against humanity that are being performed every day by other countries on a regular basis, and they do everything they can to defend those countries and their governments, while the freest nation in the world, the one and only nation in this world that is given everybody a spotlight without any fault on their color, their religion, their who they are as a human being. Because only in America was that found between 1776 and, ironically, when this gentleman died in 1993, August 16th, 1993, the day this gentleman died, I can remember it was right about July 1993 that I started to notice something was wrong with my country. That the promises I was being told existed were no longer in existence in America. Growing up with movies like American Graffiti and Animal House and many, many others. But yet, here we are finding out that instead of a bunch of goofball idiots hanging out and just doing the American thing, now our college campuses are training our young generation to not only hate themselves but hate their country and to work actively against her, to bring her down. I know I'm going to be demonetized for this. I know that at some point I will probably have an FBI agent here to ask me questions, if not just arrest me. But I also know that that doesn't ultimately matter, because if you live in a Democrat state, and this is real, if you live in a state run by Democrats, I know my history. I watched what Hitler pulled between 1918 and what happened in 1939. I watched his elections all throughout Europe going down, being rebroadcast here in our country. And I watched as the brown shirts attacked people, attacked the media, forced voters to either not vote or intimidated them into voting for their political party. I watched as that man tore Europe apart while the cheering of the millions was going on in his background. And I saw that in 1945, when the cheering stopped, all of a sudden we got the same thing. We only followed orders. We did as we were told. Oh, I didn't do it, somebody else did it. Or they did it and I helped them but I was still following orders from my higher commanders. And you know, it's funny, because when our streets were being ripped apart and burned down for terrorist organizations who felt that they had the right to burn down our cities because somebody had an accident, an unfortunate accident, that was manipulated by the American media and emphasized by people who hate America, who want to destroy us from within, so they create racial controversy. Black against white, white against black, brown against white, period. Woman against man. And I've noticed too, I've been paying attention, and I've seen it. In the last 6 weeks, they're not just attacking white men anymore. Now they're attacking white women. It's one destination alone. There is only one goal to this end, and that is to turn us against each other and to destroy us from within. And people like AOC, Rashida Tlaib, the squad in general, puppets like Joe Biden. When I see a two-tier justice system where the Democrats are protected even after committing murder, and we all know what the fuck. There's no lying about it. But yet Donald Trump gets hit with a false accusation, a false claim of fraud. There was no false. There was absolutely no fraud. None. Donald Trump went to the banks. The banks gave him the money. Name one person who was not ever embellished on a business deal. There were no victims. These laws were put in place to protect victims, but there were no victims. Not only did Donald Trump pay them back before the time was due on that loan, but Donald Trump gave them back their interest in less time as well. So where was the victim? Where was the fraud? It's a two-tier justice system, and they're attacking Donald Trump because unlike Joe Biden, unlike Barack Obama, unlike both those fucking clowns between 1988, that George Bush, his clown bullshit ass son, George W. Bush. I'm glad that there's a chance I'm not going to be here to see the end of it, because I personally am done. I have had so much of the propaganda from the left, and I've had it with the police standing down saying, well, they told us we couldn't stop the rioters. You took an oath to protect the people. How many died because you stood down? How much damage was done to our cities because you chose to stand down instead of keeping your oath as a police officer to protect our streets and our cities? But you know, everybody's probably saying, well, yeah, it's happening. Well, what can we do about it? How do we stop it? You know what? This might be your answer. You're watching Killer Kitchen, and when we come back, we're going to pull our cookie out of the oven. For the record, I just want to let everybody know, I'm not so much trying to be aggressive or angry here tonight, but I am so tired and so sick to death of hearing the propaganda, the reverse racism, the anti-white rhetoric, this whole thing, and it's not even from colleges anymore. Now, it's coming from all directions, all companies, worldwide. This is an outright conspiracy to destroy our country. And as long as you people keep electing these Democrats, and you keep electing these fake Republicans, because I'm sorry, yeah, you know what, you guys might be right about one thing. They switched sides. See, because where I grew up, the Democrats, we were the free-loving hippie bunch that wanted to smoke our fucking weed, go watch a Grateful Dead show, and be left the fuck alone. We had the right to have an opinion. But now the Democrats are the ones that are saying you don't have a right to smoke that joint unless you want to be our willing slave, like A Brave New World once offered. Unless you want to go and listen to your rock concerts. But as we saw what happened in Israel and the left's reaction from Israel, yeah, you can enjoy your rock concerts unless you believe the wrong religion. So, somebody needs to tell me, and I really wish they could, when exactly the Republicans, who were the ones wanting to stifle freedom and wanting to stifle everything, when did they become the freedom-loving crowd, and the people who love to smoke their grass and listen to Jimi Hendrix and the Doors become the fucking tyrants of 1984? So here we are in a brave new world, just on a smaller scale. Of course, we're also a few years too young yet. Here's the answer to what you can do.
This is the third of 3 films in which I have been talking to you about communism and socialism. In this one, I'm going to answer the question that is often asked me, what can we do about it? Well, as the title background you just saw suggests, if we are going to do you. Now, I say that because so many good people say to me, well, I'm just an ordinary person, living an ordinary life. I don't even know any communists. What can I do? Well, maybe that's what you're thinking right now. I hope so, because then you're exactly the kind of person we made this film for. To make it easy to organize and to remember our various points, I'm going to flash them on the wall, like this. What we can do. The first important thing you can do is to be sure you know what communism really is and how socialism ties in with it. In other words, know your enemy. Above all, get understanding. Know both communism and socialism for what they are and what they are not, how they operate, what their goals are, why some people are attracted to them. Well, how do you go finding out the facts? Well, like every other step I shall give you, it's easy. Once you start, why, you've made a good beginning already if you've seen the other 2 films in this series. That's the title of the first one, What is Communism? You'll know why J. Edgar Hoover warns it's the greatest threat in our world today. And the second film, What's the Difference Between Communism and Socialism? You'll find out that socialism is not a softer substitute or possible prevention for communism, but may lead to it. There are good books on the subject, waiting for you at your public library, or at least there should be. This is only one of many sources, of course, but it's a good one, and it's near at hand. We'll touch on other sources in connection with the next thing you can do, and that is help others understand. Be so well informed that people will seek you out for help. This is an important contribution. And again, I want to emphasize how easy it is for you to perform a real service. Whoever you are, wherever you are, discuss the Red Menace with your neighbors, your friends, your business associates, your fellow students. It's no problem to introduce the subject. Why, the news in any paper you pick up will serve as a springboard. Besides having a new understanding yourself of stories like these, you'll be able to provide background information to your friends not found in day-to-day reports. What do you belong to? Service club, trade association, cultural group, farm bureau, church, school, PTA, sewing circle. There are thousands of ready-made audiences who welcome programs and speakers, movies, graphic material. Find out what's available and propose it to your organization. Again, there are many sources, but here's one address. Write to the National Education Program, Searcy, Arkansas. Make a note of it. Or, I'm sure you'll be able to get it from whoever is showing this film. From this nationally known Freedom Forum headquarters, honored year after year with more gold medals from Freedom Foundations at Valley Forge than any other institution, you can get entertaining and informative movies and film strips, original graphic materials complete with prepared lectures to go with them, a real help to local speakers, a wide variety of patriotic publications, and high school course outlines, right for their free catalog. Popular and authoritative lectures on our American heritage versus communism and socialism are also available.
I am distinctly honored.
That is my good friend, Dr. George S. Benson. nationally known lecturer and columnist, just one of the outstanding speakers you can have in your town, school, church, or club. So send for your copy of this brochure that lists the great variety of patriotic materials and services. You will think of different ways they can be used in your town, your community, and your circle of friends. Next step, become politically active. American citizenship not only represents freedom and opportunities, it also imposes duties and responsibilities. This doesn't mean necessarily run for office, although some of you who are qualified should do that too. What it does mean is get out and vote. But what? There's an old saying that we get the kind of government we deserve. And they then add, so whatever you do, vote. But simply to vote is not enough. The right to vote is important, but equally important is know what you're voting for. Study the issues, study the candidates, and then work to elect the right officials. Officials who are dedicated to the basic principles that have made America great. Surely it is obvious that the only way our country will ever come out of this Cold War alive is to elect officials who will pledge to move positively and firmly to protect our freedom, and then see that they do it. You have a first-class persuader to help you do this. It's right in your own home. It's your fountain pen or your typewriter. Public officials pay attention to letters. After all, you elected them to represent you. You should tell them how you want to be represented. Write them when you want them to do something. Write them when they do something you don't like. And when they have stood up for something you do like, well, drop them a note of appreciation. How many good for you letters have you written your elected representatives? That's a good tool, too. Let's use it more often. To do these things right, at the right time, you must be alert. And please note the sequence. You learn to be on the alert after you know your enemy, and after you become politically active. You learn what you are to be alert for. Are you a factory worker? A member of a union, a trade association, a service club, or a church? Be alert to spot anyone promoting the communist line and working their way into some position of authority. They may not actually be commies themselves. They may not even be fellow travelers. They may be only communist dupes, but they are dangerous. Are you a student or a teacher? Well, write to your congressman for a copy of J. Edgar Hoover's report, Communist Target Youth. See how, on direct orders from Moscow, the party is in a drive to get communist speakers into our colleges and universities, taking advantage of American academic freedom and the students' naturally inquiring minds. Their aim is to preach revolutionary tactics and change peaceful campuses into scenes like this. The communist-incited student riots in San Francisco. Communist agents make more progress where they can first make trouble. Once you understand the commie line, you can readily recognize it when it appears. The one spreading it may not be a party member himself. He may even be someone who doesn't know he is being used. One of their many tricks is to get you to agitate against something. So you see, there are things for you to do, and there are things not to do. Be on the alert to circumvent subversive activity of any kind wherever you encounter it, but, and this is also important, leave the communist hunting itself to the FBI. They are trained in this sort of thing. They appreciate any facts you can give them, but please let them do the investigating. And one thing more, let's not call anyone a communist just because he happens to disagree with us. And be doubly alert when the communists start hunting you. That's right. No matter who you are, you have your own circle of influence. So the commies want you. They have a variety of approaches. Any one of them may sound reasonable, even commendable. Just don't ever agree to join any committee, or support any cause, or sign any petition, or allow your name to be used in any manner until you know the whole story, who's behind it, what their real objectives are. For instance, not long ago I picked up a pamphlet, and here I find a long bitter blast against our Internal Security Act. Glanced through the list of names, and I was shocked to see some of these names. I can well imagine how they were obtained. One day, a telephone rang.
Hello.
Is this Mr. Fred C. Harthen?
Yes?
Mr. Harthen, I'm calling you from the headquarters of the National Assembly for Democratic Right. Dr. Lubaker suggested I called you.
Who?
Dr. Sam Lubaker. You know him, don't you?
Oh, yes, certainly.
We are organizing a list of sponsors. We'd like to use your name. Besides Dr. Lubaker, our backers include Leonard Ricks, B.J. Merkel.
What did you say the committee was?
The National Assembly for Democratic Rights. I'm sure you're for free speech, free press, freedom of worship.
Oh, yes.
Fine, thank you, Mr. Harthen. I'll give Dr. Lubaker your regards, if I may. Goodbye.
Just like that, huh?
But he already had Lubaker, Ricks, Merkel.
And now he has you. And will get more with your name. You have all signed for one of the notorious communist fronts, cited by the House Committee on Un-American Activities as using the Bill of Rights plea to attack our Internal Security Act. Don't let the communists use you. Please, don't be a dupe. Anyway, that's the way I wrote it in my notes. You know, even my secretary can't always read my handwriting. And so when she typed it, it came out, please, don't be a dope. And you know, her word's pretty good too. Well now, in summary, this is what you can do. Know your enemy. Help others understand. Become politically active. Get out and vote, but know what you are voting for. Work to elect the right officials. Be alert. There are many things to do. And there are things not to do. And to that list, I am going to add one more. Be constant. Perhaps this is the most difficult of all. And often, it's the most important. The other night, I was rereading a letter dated 1900 years ago. A man named Paul was writing to some of his friends in Galatia. But the exhortation is just as apt today. Let us not be weary in well-doing, for in due season we shall reap if we faint not. I believe that. I believe something else too. And to those of you of similar belief, in closing I would say, at least once each day, we should pray for guidance in living up to our mission as a child of God and our duties as an American citizen. That too, we can do. Will you join me?
Welcome back. Well, we ran across a few issues, and our skull seemed to have just fallen apart. But one thing that's nice is I wasn't planning on really sharing. This was just a treat for me and Pam to snack on while we watched Dragon Ball Z tonight. So, we've got a bunch of little crumbs. But I did them in a way where I got to salvage the top half of the skull while creating with the crumbs a sort of dirt mound. Now, as far as presentation, it's just a good thing that Cam, Pam, and myself just don't give a damn. We're gonna mix up a batch of some homemade buttercream frosting for dipping sauce, and we're gonna have some fun. Now, my friends, I'd like to say thank you for joining us this evening. I know that for many of you, this is a very bizarre and oddball type of killer kitchen. And most of you guys are probably thinking, what the hell? Where's the blood and the guts and the crooked girlfriend who kills her husband and the guy crawls out of the grave and cuts her throat and drags her soul to hell? And, well, you know, as I said, the show is always going to be based in and around horror. But horror comes in many fashions. And for me, the true horrors are the ones found here on Earth every day, throughout history, and apparently throughout our present and future. On a calmer note, because I did get a little excited, I just ask that everybody think just a little bit about what's happening and try to remember what came before, because history has always had a way of repeating itself, and if we're not careful, we could find ourselves repeating a point in history that almost destroyed Europe. Sometimes the greatest enemy comes from within. Now, as Herbert said, don't go looking for trouble, don't go looking for people. And unfortunately, our country no longer prosecutes communists or socialists. But I hope that I was able to help you understand and identify so that even though it's not illegal, you can keep your distance, put your arm up. There's nothing wrong with being courteous and kind to your neighbor. And just because they don't agree with you doesn't mean they're bad people. But choose your company wisely. The Earth Society is kind of like tonight's so-called cake, which was supposed to be a shell. That didn't work. It just turned into a giant gingerbread cake. So that's okay, because it's still going to be good. But just as this crumbled and fell apart because I made some mistakes in the kitchen, something as small as removing a cooking object from the heat too early can explode in your face. If you leave a fire burn too long, the fire has the potential of getting out of control. The next thing you know, you've lost your home. I hope you guys enjoyed yourselves. I hope that you found this not only informative, but also a little bit entertaining. Because to look at it, back in 1957, when this was recorded, I think it is almost humorous how well they called it and what to look out for, and yet Americans in America and all of the West has fallen victim to it. Here's where I'm going to end tonight's show. This one kind of came off the cuff. And again, you know, I like to keep informed, so I do watch the news. I like to read what's happening. But as a wise man once said, believe only half of what you hear and only a third of what you see. The trick of the hand, or just a misunderstanding through the ear, be enough to cause the end of all ends. The world has become a very dangerous place. What's to come next, I don't know. Wish I did. But at the rate we're going, America could fall victim since 1819. It's all it takes to slip up and lose your home, your car, business, all because you let a fire burn too hot for too long. And to leave you on a lighter note, here's another cartoon just for fun.
Thank you for this unsolicited testimonial. And now, by special permission of the Commander-in-Chief, me, here is Mars' first space explorer, Colonel Cosmic.
I can't tell you how happy I am to see your smiling faces once more. First, let me say that this trip was made possible only by our dauntless chief, Og the Magnificent, introducer of Og Power, which runs most of our industry, and inventor of Og Speed, which doubles the original Og Power. A short time ago, the master was having trouble with the state limousine. He had, of course, developed the Og-explosive charge. But it was inclined to get a little out of hand, just slightly. And, of course, there was always the problem of friction. Parts rubbing together, heating up, and causing all sorts of trouble. But our leader was undaunted. He immediately ordered our first expedition into space to bring back the secret of how other planets got their state limousines to run smoothly. The target was picked with painstaking scientific accuracy. Destination Earth. You all know with what eagerness I volunteered for the mission. and with what confidence I took off. I took careful bearings and set out for my goal. It seemed no time till I was approaching a country of Earth called, the United States of America. I set her down like a feather. What's all the racket? Naturally, I protected government property by making the saucer invisible. They're after the chickens, Ma! And though the natives showed great interest in me, I decided to make myself invisible, too. Seeing moving lights in the distance, I headed for them. What phenomenal luck! I had landed close to what seemed to be an endless procession of state limousines. They moved quickly, and yet with fantastic smoothness. I just had to get a closer look at one of those Earthmobiles. Just as I thought. Not only smooth and efficient, but powerful as well. I watched them for hours. Great Ganymede, they were superb. I just couldn't help comparing them with ours. If you call that a comparison. Surely these vehicles must be the property of the highest officials. I was wrong. It seems that almost everybody in this country has one of those, they call them automobiles. They use them for transportation, for business, for pleasure. They use them for all sorts of things. I found that these vehicles gather at places called service stations, where they are fed, lubricated, that's how they beat friction, and given the finest care. The source of their nourishment was something called petroleum. A power source like that must be a highly prized state secret. I had to find out about it. Perhaps the secret lay within this government archives building. It was heavily guarded, but casting discretion to the winds, I walked boldly inside. Their code was remarkably easy to break. They merely substituted the word oil for petroleum. And I soon got hold of a veritable mine of classified information. I began to assimilate the material. I soon found out that though petroleum products are easily found anywhere, petroleum itself is a very elusive substance. Experts have to search for it constantly in all the most likely and unlikely places with all kinds of scientific devices. When they figure they found a good spot, they drill a hole in the ground called an oil well, for almost all oil lies far beneath the surface of the earth. These wells go down thousands of feet and cost a lot of money to drill. But that's no guarantee that they're going to find oil. Matter of fact, in exploratory drilling, only 1 well in 9 finds any oil at all. Only 1 in 44 recovers enough oil to pay for itself. And only 1 in almost 1,000 makes a major discovery. Pretty big odds. Yet America's proved reserves, the oil supplies still underground, have kept increasing steadily. I couldn't imagine how this ever-increasing supply of oil was achieved until I found out that there's not just 1, but thousands of oil companies, all competing with each other to discover and develop new sources of oil. For believe it or not, in the USA, anyone who is willing to risk it can drill for oil. But oil discovery is only part of the story. Once they get oil out of the ground, it has to be moved through pipelines, on ships, or in tank cars, to fantastic processing plants called refineries. Crude oil goes in, and great Jupiter, the things that come out. Gasoline, for example, the most efficient mobile power source on Earth. that was the stuff that powered all those cars and trucks. And asphalt, which makes smooth, durable roads. It seems that oil not only runs cars, it even gives them something to run on. Another oil product is the diesel fuel, which runs giant trains across the nation. In winter, fuel oil made from petroleum brings warmth and comfort to millions of homes. And still other fuels help defend America's shores and skies. From refineries also come the lubricating oils and greases that keep the wheels turning in America. But that still isn't all. Crude oil, like everything else, is made up of billions of tiny molecules. And using the magic of research, oil companies compete with each other in taking the petroleum molecule apart and rearranging it into, well, you name it, fabrics, toothbrushes, tires, insecticides, cosmetics, weed killers, a whole galaxy of things to make a better life on Earth. And you know, it isn't just oil companies that try to outdo each other, competing for the customer's dollar. The same story is true of almost every successful business enterprise in America. The result? A higher standard of living in the USA than in any other country on the whole planet. At last, the secret was mine. And now, to get proof of my discovery, smuggled past the border guards. In spite of my infinite precautions, one of them became suspicious and gave the alarm.
Come back for the eggs, did you?
Yeah, Pa! And so, with the fond farewells of the natives ringing in my ears, I took off once again for Mars. My landing was a little bumpy, but I saved my precious cargo. Yes, I brought the secrets back with me, and here they are. The big secret is, of course, oil, which has brought a better life to all the people in the USA. But the key to making oil work for everybody is competition. Fellow Martians, I thank you.
Very interesting, Colonel. Oil, huh? Sounds splendid. But that, what was it? Competition. Not our kind of thing at all. Why, competition is downright un-Martian.
You'll have oil for everybody. That's what we need. Oh, boy, oil.
You know what this means, Cosmic?
You bet I do, Og. It means that you're through. So why don't you get lost? Yes, the real secret is not only a great source of energy, but also the freedom to make it work for everybody. And if you have both of these things, any goal is possible. It's Destination Unlimited.
The NBC television schedule is brought to you especially recorded for rebroadcast in this time zone on KNBC Channel 4.